Thank you. Thanks, everyone. This will be in English. Sorry for this. Next slide, please. Okay, so just as a reminder about the GNSO schedule for ICANN meetings, and that was the case for ICANN 69. We have a session for PDP working groups, such as RPM and UGTLD subsequent procedure. There are also sessions organized by GNSO stakeholder groups and constituencies. Also GNSO Council own meetings, and finally joint meetings between GNSO Council with the GAG, ICANN board, CCNSO, and SAC.
ICANN69 での GNSO の関連スケジュールということで、これらの、セッションが含まれるということですね。まずは、ポリシー策定プロセス作業部会に関するセッション、この2つですね。RPM とサブプロ。で、GNSO の、ステークホルダーグループおよび部会コンスティテュエンシーですね。が主催するセッションで、GNSO 評議会自身の会議で、GNSO 評議会と他のグループとの合同会議ということで、GAC、ICANN 理事会、CCNSO、SAC と合同会議が行われました。
Next slide, please. Okay, so here I will focus on the GNSO Council public meeting agenda because that's the main or the most important GNSO council session during an ICANN meeting. And in terms of agenda, we had discussion about the intent of EPDP Phase 1, Recommendation 7, and the initiation of the Whois transition policy EPDP. So just for the background, this is to respond to letter from ICANN board and help the EPDP Phase 1 implementation review team. The other topic that's about the operational design phase for GTLD policy implementation, and I think that it was mentioned by Jacob a few minutes ago. The other topic is the ICANN board consultation regarding the financial sustainability of the SSID and the EPDP Phase 2 recommendation. And this it was a proposal, in fact, from the GNSO Council when we approved the EPDP Phase 2 recommendation to have the dialogue with the board to explain about the recommendation, and in particular regarding the financial sustainability. There was also discussion about delaying the request for the policy status report for the expiration policy, taking into account the workload. This is just to highlight is how now the GNSO Council taking into consideration how to manage the workload and the priorities in terms of PDPs. Finally, the public meeting was the last one for the former or previous GNSO Council, and the next just after was for the new council, and there was the election of the new GNSO chair, who is Philippe Foucault from ISBCP constituency.
GNSO 評議会の公開会議での議題を一通り説明いただきました。まずは、EPDP、Whois の方ですね。これのフェーズ1、勧告などの意図で、Whois 移行ポリシーに関する迅速 PDP、EPDP ですね。これの開始についての確認提案を起草するってことと、2番目は、GTLD ポリシー実装に関する運用設計フェーズの起草の議論。3番目が、SSAD ですね。この標準化された Whois へのアクセスと開示システム。これの財政的安 安定性で、EPDP フェーズ2の勧告に関する質問についての ICANN 理事会の相談。これはGNSO 側からの提案ということでした。で、次の、項目は、執行ポリシーに関する、ポリシー状況報告の要求を遅らせる。これは、ワークロードが、かなりになっているということで、検討ということのようです。で、最後に、退任される評議員の送別ということですね。で、それが済んで、次に、確か、引き続いて行われたセッションだったと思いますけども、新任の評議員による会議が、開催されて GNSO の議長の選任が行われて、ISPCP からのフィリップ・フォカール氏が、議長に選任されました。
Next slide, please. Okay, so while we discussed the previous topics, the GNSO Council also approved several decision or next steps that were deliberated or discussed previously. The first is regarding next steps for Whois conflicts procedure implementation advisory group. And this was paused because all the work regarding with EPDP. The next, I think it's quite important for those in our region and also in Japan, is the call for volunteers for a small team to develop both a draft charter and EPDP scoping document for IDN policy track 2. So this was a response to the ICANN board regarding the IDN variants and IDN guidelines. Also, the GNSO Council approved the next steps for EPDP Phase 2 priority to remaining topics, which are legal versus natural person, the feasibility of unique contacts to have a uniform anonymized email address, and data accuracy. And so they will be split or separated into track. The EPDP Phase 2A that should start soon, and accuracy scoping team. So for the EPDP Phase 2A, currently they are confirming the members or participants for EPDP, and also the appointment of the new chair. Finally, the confirmation of the recommendation report to the ICANN board regarding the adoption of recommendation 1 to 22 in the final report from EPDP Phase 2, and the appointment of the GNSO liaison to the GAC.
GNSO 評議会が、公開会議で承認した事項は次の通りです。まず一つ目ですけども、Whois の、衝突手続きの実装勧告グループ、これが次に何をなすべきかということ。で、2番目は、これは日本にいる皆さんに、すごくとても関わってくる重要な事項ですけれども、国際化ドメイン名 IDN ですね。これのポリシートラック2に関するチャーターの案で、EPDP の範囲決定文書、これの作成のための、小チームに参加するボランティアの募集について。で、3番目が、EPDP のフェーズ2ですね。これの優先順位2番目の、残りの事項について次にやるべきことということで、法人と個人で匿名化メールアドレスを持つ、ユニークな連絡先の、フィージビリティでデータの正確性で EPDP のフェーズ2および正確性に関する、範囲スコーピングチームですね。で、次の項目がEPDP の、暫定使用書フェーズ2の最終報告書に記載された勧告1から22、これの採択について ICANN 理事会への勧告報告書の確認について、で最後が、逆への GNSO リエゾンの任命についてです。
Next slide, please. Okay, so we went through the topics that were discussed in the GNSO Council meeting. Now it's about the joint meetings and the topics that were discussed there. So the first one, it was between GNSO Council and the ICANN board. First, we heard from the ICANN board about progress for the activity related to the enhancing the effectiveness of the multi-stakeholder model. And the GNSO Council proposed three topics, all of them regarding the EPDP. So first about the EPDP phase 2, it was the first opportunity to discuss with board about the SSID and the recommendation and explaining about the idea of having dialogue regarding the cost benefit analysis. The second is about EPDP phase 1 recommendation 7, and I mentioned that before. So the council explained the next steps to the board and what they can expect. And finally, the GNSO Council asked the question to the board regarding the status of EPDP phase 1 recommendation 12 that was not approved initially, but the GNSO Council provided what we call a supplemental recommendation. And in this case, it was providing implementation guidance. And for a reminder, I think recommendation 12 is about the organizational field.
GNSO と、ICANN 理事会が、開催した共同セッションの、中身ですね。まずは ICANN 理事会が提案した、マルチステークホルダーモデルの有効性の強化で、迅速化するための、主要な課題と、機会ということです。で、次がですね、EPDP フェーズ2で、SSAD 関連勧告のすべての、コストベネフィットアナリシス、費用便益分析で、優先度2番目の勧告の扱いについて議論されました。で、その次については、EPDP のフェーズ1の実装のレビューチームですね、IRT。これの、勧告7に関する、次のステップということを議論しました。で、最後ですけども、EPDP フェーズ1のですね、勧告12ですね。これはまあ補足の勧告ということですけども、これの進捗状況についてということでした。
Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so as usual, the GNSO Council has a meeting with the GAG, and this in a way to engage with the GAG on PDP discussion and to have them participating. And so that was the opportunity to discuss several topics of interest for the GAG. And probably you could guess some of them based on the GAG representative presentation. So first, we give an update here, GNSO Council to the GAG about the PDP phase 2 final report, explaining about the process. And then about EPDP phase 2A for priority 2 items. GAG is among the groups that they expressed interest about the follow-up of the priority 2 issues. And so it was an opportunity to explain how we'll proceed. And as explained, there will be 2 tracks, one about legal versus natural and anonymized email, and another one regarding the data accuracy. Another topic of interest for the GAG is regarding the intergovernmental organization IGU work track that will be under the review of all protection mechanism in all GTL EPDP or RPM working group. So just for background, this is follow-up of a previous IGU corrective rights working group recommendation, and the GAG was not satisfied with some of the recommendation, and this is a follow-up for that. We also discussed with the GAC about the consensus input on the new GTLD subsequent procedure PDP. And finally, discussion about the DNS abuse. Since the GNSO and GNSO Council has an important role here with regard to GTLD policy, and this to explain about what can be the process if we have any work related to DNS abuse in terms of policy.
GNSO 評議会は、逆と合同で、会合を開催して、以下の点について議論を行ったということです。で、まずは、EPDP のフェーズ2の最終報告書、このプロセスについてということですね。で、次に、EPDP のフェーズ 2A の優先順位2番目の、項目について、逆は、どのように進めていくのかということについて興味を示されたということで、例えばさっき出ましたけども、法人対個人とか、そういう項目ですね。これらについてってことです。で、次は、政府間機関 IGO、のすべての GTLD におけるすべての権利保護メカニズム RPM、これの見直しのワークトラックの PDP ということで、まずはその背景とか過去の、勧告などについて説明があって、逆は満足してないということが、表明されたということです。で、次は、次期新 GTLD 募集手続きの PDP に関する逆の合意に関して情報提供がされたということで、最後が、DNS アビューズですね。GNSO 評議会は、の役割は重要なので、これについても話し合われたということです。
Thank you. Okay, so the other regular meeting for GNSO Council, it's with another council, which is the CCNSO here. And one of the main or shared topic between GNSO and CCNSO is about IDN. So we discussed about the current and planned policy work regarding IDNs. From CCNSO that the CCNSO PDP 4 on the selection of IDN CCTLD strings. And from GNSO about the operational track 1 and policy track 2 for IDN work, and that related to what I mentioned regarding the small team to work on the draft charter. So here an example of common interest regarding IDN. Also, one topic from the CNSO was about the coordination of the ICANN.org fiscal year 2021 operating and financial plan and budget. And this is in the context of empowered community. And so for the two supporting organization to follow up with regard to the ICANN budget. Finally, one topic was about empowered community mechanism and possible bylaw change in future. And my understanding for this case, it was with regard to removing ICANN board member, since from CCNSO standpoint, the deadline and the timeline seems quite constrained or tight. So that was an opportunity to discuss about maybe future bylaws change that can be initiated by members of the empowered community.
GNSO 評議会は、CCNSO の評議会とも、ジョイントの会合を議論を行っております。で、まず IDN に関するポリシー策定作業ということで、一つ目は IDN-CCTLD の文字列、選択もしくは選択解除などに関する、CCNSO の PDP4 というものですね。で、GNSO の IDN 作業として、オペレーショナルトラック1とポリシートラック2というものについて、議論を 行いました。で、次に、ICANN 事務局ですね。これの、2021年度の運営、財務計画及び予算の調整、これらについて議論が行われました。で、最後に、エンパワードコミュニティですね。各 SOAC から代表が出て、その人たちが、拒否権を持つという仕組みですけども、これについては、将来、定款が変更の可能性ということについて議論されました。
So, GNSO Council had for first time, I think, a meeting with the SAC, and the SAC proposed several topics of interest from their perspective. First is, again, it's about the DNS abuse, and the SAC mentioned their I forget how they call it, but their paper with regard to the DNS abuse. And that's, I think it's important to understand that in the general context within ICANN community about the discussion regarding the DNS abuse and trying to identify the possible gaps and next steps. So, but just from GNSO perspective is now it's more about trying to identify what was done already with regard to DNS abuse. Then the GNSO Council explained about the next steps for issues not addressed by EPDP phase 1 and 2. That those are the priority 2 items, the 3 topics again. And so it's kind of communication from GNSO Council to different advisory committee and regarding the next steps. And that's already ongoing right now. Also, we heard from ESAC about their paper regarding private use TLDs. And this is a good example of something related to GTLD policy, and so discussion was how we can include such input in policy discussion, and that's then linked to the important PDP, which is the new GTLD subsequent procedure PDP, and how the SAC can participate in such PDP working group like they did for the EPDP regarding Whois or RDS. And so we concluded about what can be the possible feedback process for SAC that can be referred for GNSO and how we can improve that. Such a joint meeting, for example, and how we can have the SAC advice on input to be used in ingoing PDP, like the subsequent procedure or EPDP and so on.
GNSO評議会は、SAC、セキュリティと安定性の諮問委員会ですね。こことかジョイントで会議を開いて議論を行いました。まず最初の点ですけども、DNS アビューズに関する現在行っている作業で、可能性のある、ギャップですね。それと、次に行うべきこと。で、2点目は、EPDP のフェーズ1、2で、対応できなかった、課題について、次のステップは何か。で、3番目が、プライベートユースの TLD ですね。これに関する、SAC の文書、SAC113、これに関して SAC がブリーフィングを行った。で、次がですね、サブプロですね、次期新 GTLD の申請手続きのポリシー策定プロセス。で、最後は、GNS に紹介が行われた SAC の勧告。これに関する現在のフィードバックプロセスと、そのプロセスの改善の可能性について話し合われたということです。
Okay. Next slide, please. So at the end of ICANN 69, there was the wrap by GNSO Council in a way to prepare for follow-up and continue the work till the next meeting. So one topic that was discussed about the virtual meeting and the possible change that should be considered for future meetings. Since there was a survey by, I think, ICANN.org and the board asking for input and suggestion, and now that's under discussion among the supporting organization and advisory committee leaders. Also, as follow-up is to initiating or confirming the membership of several small teams, such the Standing Committee on Budget and Operation. And this is usually the committee to work on GNSO Council input regarding the PTI or ICANN budget and operational plan. Again, the drafting team regarding IDN. Small team to work on input or comment from GNSO Council on operational design phase. I think that was already submitted, and you can find more details in the last GNSO Council meeting. Well, there was a presentation from Kurt regarding the GNSO Council comment. The last is a small team to work on transmission letter to ICANN board regarding the EPDP phase 2 final report. And just to explain, maybe it looks strange since the board, the GNSO Council approved the EPDP phase 2 report and sent the kind of background report to the board. Is the language in the letter was important to clarify about the idea of dialogue between the board and GNSO Council, and kind of to outline the framework for such dialogue. So that was the, I think, yeah. Also, preparation for GNSO Council regarding the strategic planning session, and that was already done. Usually, if the GNSO Council has this meeting face-to-face, but with COVID-19, it was just online. So maybe I should stop here for Waski-san to translate, and then I can continue.
GNSO評議会は ICANN 会議の最後の方にですね、まとめセッションを行っています。で、どういうことが議題になったかというと、まず、ICANN69 のバーチャル年次総会だったわけですけども、その振り返りと今後のバーチャル会議のために検討すべき点で、評議会として、アンケートへの回答の提出について話し合われました。で、次にですね、特定の分野に、フォーカスを当てた小チームへのタスクを割り当てということで、まず、予算運営の常任委員会、CBO と略してますけども、ここのボランティア募集ですね。PTI とか、そういうところが対象になっているということだそうです。で、次に2点目が IDN の EPDP のチャーターと、その EPDP の開始要求ですね。これのドラフティングチームで、運用設計のフェーズということで、これは、最新の GNSO 評議会議後で、カートさんが、プレゼンをされたということですね。で、その次が、EPDP フェーズ2の最終報告書に関する ICANN 理事会の所管ということで、背景報告ですとか、疑問点を明確にするとか、そういう内容だったそうです。で、最後に、戦略セッションの準備ということで、いつもは、フェース2フェースでやるんですけども、COVID-19 でそれができないということでオンラインにするために、どうやったらいいかっていう議論がなされたということです。
So also in terms of follow-up, and that was also part of the strategic planning session, is to for the new council to understand about the upcoming work as visualized or outlined in the program management tool and action decision radar. So just for background, those are some of the project management tool that were added and used now by GNSO Council as a result of PDP 3.0 improvement. Also some administrative tasks as replacement of GNSO Council liaison were needed, like for EPDP. Since I left the GNSO Council, I also left my role as liaison to the EPDP. And finally, tasking the GNSO Council Standing Committee to identify GNSO members for the IRP Standing Panel Selection Committee. So those were most of the task or follow-up from GNSO Council for ICAM 69 meeting.
最初のはさっき出ましたが、GNS の評議会の戦略計画セッションの準備ということですね。で、2番目が、プログラムマネジメントツールとコード意思決定、レーダーにまとめられた今後の作業を確認するということ。で、3番目が、必要に応じて評議会のリエゾン交代というのは、今回、ラフィクさんが評議員を退任されたんで、同時にその、EPDP チームのリエゾンもやってらっしゃったんで、それを次の人に引き継ぐということ。で、4番目はですね、GNSO 評議会の、常任選考委員会ですね。ここに、IRP の常任パネル選考委員会の GNSO からのメンバーを、特定することを依頼したという、引き継ぎですね。
Okay, thanks again, Yamazaki-san, for the interpretation. That was the final slide, and I'm happy to respond to any question, and I can add more details or clarification since I tried to be brief as much as possible on the slides. That's it.
これで、最後のスライドで以上です。ご質問をお受けするために、スライドの説明は、簡潔になるように努めました。発表は以上ですので、ご質問をどうぞ。
はい、どうもありがとうございます。ご質問ありましたらよろしくお願いします。ぜひ、挙手がなければ、口頭で聞いていただいても結構ですけども、ないですか。そしたら、
すみません。
はい、
すみません、前村ですけども、よろしいですか。
挙手できへんねんな。
なんか挙手ボタンがないですよね。
じゃあ前村さんお願いします。
はい、すみません。Thank you very much, Rafik, for your presentation. And I may have some tiny points, but rather than that, I'd like to express my gratitude for your service on the GNSO Council for years, especially with the on top of that, you did a great job for the EPDP working group. So and with that, and you have taken on your reporting from the ICANN meetings in this readout session. So these are all, quite. We are so grateful for your service in a various way. Thank you very much for that. 私自身がもう訳してしまった方がいいと思うんですけど、ラフィックさん、GNSO 評議会から今回ご退任なさるんで、評議会だけでも大変なんですけど、それ以外に EPDP の、ワーキンググループの、チェアもおやりになっていたし、それに ICANN 報告会でこうやってご報告もいただいてたということで、大変ありがとうございました、ラフィックさん。
thank you very much, Maimura-san. It's much appreciated, and I was always glad and happy to make the reports for the readout. I know it's in English and not always easy to everyone, but I was happy to do it, and always happy to help anytime.
ありがとうございました。このようなポジションを引き受けることができて非常に光栄です。で、嬉しく思っていますが、常に簡単なわけではなかったということです。
Rafik, do you have any plan of the next challenge for you within ICANN Circle?
For now, nothing. Just
oh, really? Okay. So you relaxed.
Yeah. I think after some time, I thought it's a good idea just to be just, participant. No.
Right. Yeah. That's good to keep. 私の質問は、これで評議会のお役目が、終わったんですけども、次に何かまたやるんですかって聞いたら、いや、しばらくはしないけど、普通の参加者として、ICANN会議に参加するのが楽しみだ、みたいな感じのことをおっしゃってましたね。楽しんでください。ありがとうございました。